GCC. Talk to the people. What's happening?
Getting ready to go to Trinidad for the first time ever. It's gonna be a good time. I don't know if I'm ready. Are you ready, babe?
I don't know.
Y'all pray for us. Okay, babe, so we are a week back from Carnival 2018. If you had to rate Carnival, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, give me your rating and why.
500. It was an experience
This is coming from the American.
unlike any other. Yes, and I'm American. And and I'm about to do AncestryDNA.com because it's got to be like some West Indian somewhere, something.
Yeah, wait till y'all see my husband in these clips.
But really, I enjoy culture to its most like authentic core, and Trinidad Carnival was that times 1,000.
On 1,000.
They don't care where you came from, whether it's Great Britain, Canada, New York City, West Baltimore, New Orleans, Africa, China. It doesn't matter. They're playing soca. They're
All
playing
day,
Trinidadian
every
music. They're stars. They're artists. Everything Trinidad and Tobago is front and center, and that's what it's all about. And I immersed myself into it fully. They know how to have a good time. What about you?
So I would have to say, without copying my husband, if I had to rate it 1 to 5, it would be a 5 plus, because some things you can only imagine, right? Like I can't even imagine. This was my frame of thought before we left. I can't even imagine what we're getting ready to experience. You plan and you prepare and you kind of think about it and you watch videos and you're getting yourself amped up to experience this bucket list item. For me, anyway, for us, bucket list item. But what I thought I was going to experience was multiplied. Like, just being around that many people, no fights breaking out, everybody's in a good mood, everybody's dancing, the music is good, the food is good, the vibes are good. And just another tidbit for you guys, the music is going to be the same. You're going to hear the top soca hits for that year every party you go to, and every time you hear it, it's going to be like you never heard it before. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just being out there and around the people and feeling all the vibes, but you hear the same songs a million times, but you're not mad about it. It's like, that's my song. It becomes your song within the first fete, in the first party. It's like, that's my song, or these are my 2 songs, and I'm rocking with it for the whole entire trip. Here and there, like I said, I grew up with the culture a little bit. We're not Trinidadian, but we listened to reggae and soca. They threw in some old school soca, and it's so funny. We had some friends that we met out there who were Trinidadian, and they were like, how do you know this? Or how do you know that? And I'm like, look, like, I live in America. My family's from Jamaica, but I grew up on some of this old school stuff. So it's a good time. Don't go out there thinking you're going to hear no Jay-Z or Beyonce. Listen, if soca music's not your thing, then maybe this is not the trip for you, because it's soca all day, every day. But when I say we had a blast, I can't even put into words the amount of fun that we had. And people were so surprised that we went together and we had so much fun. We let it know, ready to challenge. Forward is not enough. I want it to jump up. No big round now. We had it to jump down. All of the trailing. So much more than trailing. All of the things up. Get ready to blast out. All of the I don't remember what movie I watched, but it was this movie, and the guy's wife had given him a hall pass, and he ended up not using it. And when he got back to his wife to explain why he didn't use it, he said, because every time I do something really, really great, I have to share it with you, or it's not that great. So I couldn't use my hall pass because I don't want to share this with you, and then that doesn't even make the experience that great. So all that to say, that's how I would have felt about this. Like, this is my right hand, left hand, and if I would have gone to this without him and had to come back and try to put it into words to explain it to him, it would have kind of taken away from it. I would have been trying to FaceTime him, to show him, and there's nothing like being there and in it, and for it to have been our first experience together in a new place with a new, I can't even call it event. Like, it was just, it's bigger than an event. It's huge.
Yeah.
There's nobody else I would have wanted to experience that with, and now my whole family's ready to go. Like my mom, my sister, everybody's ready to go. So, I mean, but it's definitely doable, guys. You can do it with your significant other and do it with your spouse, and we're going to get into that because it's deeper than just saying you can do it. Everybody has to have their own guidelines and being respectful and what my tolerance level is. I wouldn't suggest you just go out there blindly, not knowing what is okay with your spouse or significant other, but it can be done.
We like to party. We like to have a good time. Just a genuine good time. And this was a good time times 1,000. Now, can it be taken advantage of? Yes. I'm a guy, I've heard it several times. Why would you go out there with your significant other? I can't go to something like that with my girl, with my wife, with my fiance. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's nothing out there that you haven't seen before. It's just on 1,000. So I would say, think more about the experience. So, talking about lodging, where we stayed in an Airbnb at a bed and breakfast, but kind of to quickly hit on how we prepared for that, why don't you let them know?
Okay, so I looked into hotels first, and just to be on the safe side, I reserved one for over $3,000 and kind of knew that was like a last resort type of situation. So we went to the Airbnb website, we kind of mapped it ourselves on MapQuest to see how far these different locations would be from Port of Spain. So Port of Spain is a city where mostly everything kind of takes place around. So we did our own mapping, like miles wise, to see how far it would be. Really, that was his thing. And then after we decided which ones would be just far enough and close enough, because one thing about Trinidad is there is traffic. There's some smaller islands. This one is a decent sized island, and there can be a lot of traffic, especially some areas where there's only one way in and one way out. So if you're somebody who's bothered by a little bit of traffic, then I would suggest you really take it, like, take into consideration how far your accommodations would be from Port of Spain and all the main attractions. So after we decided, what would be our furthest we would want to stay out from Port of Spain, then I really went into looking for reviews. I'm a huge review person. Anytime we go anywhere,
reviews are key.
I'm looking at reviews. And so I wanted to know, how were people getting around? How helpful was the host? Was it cleanly? Did people have did they have bugs? How did you get in and out? Like, those are things that are important for me, especially when you're staying somewhere for 6 days. I don't want to go stay somewhere for 6 days and they're having a rodent problem or burglary problem, and that's something that I could have read about in the reviews. So that was key for us. So our host was amazing. And I'm not trying to exaggerate by any means. Let me just start off by saying that before we got there, the week before, I have a planner. I write everything down in my planner. In my planner was contact the host to make sure everything is set up for us when we get there. Well, time got away from me. I got busy trying to close out some things before we headed out of town. And she ended up reaching out to me. So when she reached out to me, she asked me if we were ready, if we needed a driver for anything, did we want to go hiking, were there any things that we needed help with. Very proactive. Let me know that she would be picking us up from the airport and dropping us back off, and certain things we just wouldn't have to worry about. Huge help for me. It made me know that, number one, we were on her radar. It wasn't something that she forgot about. We weren't going to have to call a taxi or figure out how to get from the airport to the Airbnb, because your cell service is not going to be the same as it is here in another country. So it was just a huge load off to not have to worry about that. So I would definitely say look for reviews. When you're staying with people, make sure there are good, reliable reviews about your host, because not every Airbnb comes with a host that's going to help you like that. Our host actually lived downstairs and we were in her upstairs apartment. So when we needed water or we had questions about anything, she was readily available. I was able to send her a message or call her on WhatsApp and she responded immediately. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get that everywhere, but I would just really recommend, number one, you want to make sure you're safe. You're in a safe area and you're in a clean space, because you're going to be there for at least 5 to 7 days, at least. So you want to make sure where you're staying is something that you're going to be comfortable with for that amount of time. So I can't say enough great things about our host and our accommodation. She took us to the mall for souvenirs. Yeah. Like I said, picked us up, dropped us off from the airport, arranged for a reliable driver for us. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. She was just amazing.
So just to kind of give some perspective on some of the logistics. So the Airbnb was in Tunapuna, Coroni area. And that was about 12 to 15 minutes from Port of Spain without traffic. With traffic, it was about 20 minutes. But it wasn't anything crazy. We had our expectations set on a ton of traffic. I don't know if we got lucky, but traffic wasn't that crazy. At max, it was 25 minutes. Taking a look, and we were probably a good maybe 10 miles away. So I mean, there was no traffic to really talk about. So Tunapuna Coroni is where we stayed. We had the upstairs apartment. It was 1 bed, had a TV, air conditioning, which was great. Had a balcony. It was his own private neighborhood, gated community type. We had a good view of the mountains.
So this is something that people ask a lot too. Would we do it again? Mm-hmm. Would we choose to stay in a hotel and be closer into town, or would we choose to stay outside a little bit and drive? And really, the drive didn't bother me at all. So I would do the same thing again if I were going back. I would stay a little bit outside of the city and just commute to where you wanted to go, because you're not driving. So you have a driver, you can relax, you can sleep. You know, like, people made it seem like, oh my goodness, you're not staying in town, it's going to be such a big deal, traffic's going to be so horrible. It really wasn't that bad. And if we had to do it again, I would do it the same way.
This carnival is one of a kind. Everybody know it's party time. Cause we all in on time.
Yeah.
And we in party mode. Nobody's
Going.